The belief in the Loch Ness Monster has always been a controversial subject, but if we really want to stir the pot, then we should discuss the potential land sightings, which introduces a whole new level of controversy. Just to be very clear, in this short video, I'm not trying to prove or disprove any of these bizarre reports. Instead, I'm going to take you down memory lane to revisit a personal belief that I had during my teenage years when exploring Loch Ness and the mystery of the Loch Ness Monster. Land sightings, whether we like it or not, could actually challenge the very existence of the Loch Ness Monster. Now, the only reason I say that is because water-based sightings are fairly consistent with one another. For example, the classic single hump, several humps travelling through the loch, or one large object lying motionless on the surface. For me personally, I do understand why land sightings are so controversial, and I believe it all comes down to the inconsistencies in descriptions from the eyewitness. Rather than me exploring more details about these accounts, I'll simply signpost you to Roland Watson's blog, and I also highly recommend reading Roland's book, which is titled When Monsters Come Ashore. Just for these stories alone, it's a great place to start. When exploring these land reports, I became increasingly interested in the terrain around Loch Ness. There are certain areas around the loch that give us easy access to the shoreline, and others that give us a more commanding view. The southern shoreline of Loch Ness, particularly between Foyers and Fort Augustus, can be very challenging to navigate through, with its steep slopes, dangerous terrain, and limited road access. Some people believe that Nessie breaks the surface purely by accident, which I find quite interesting. If Nessie isn't intentionally breaching the water, then venturing onto land would most likely serve a purpose beyond mere curiosity and exploration. Why would Nessie put the effort into manoeuvring through this rough and dangerous terrain? Surely flat land, forest, and minimum effort is the way forward. That very question now takes us back to one of my favourite locations, Arket Bay Woods. You are now stepping into a hidden, enchanting realm where nature's beauty remains timeless and untouched. It genuinely does feel like a lost world, and I used to believe that this particular lost world could easily hide an elusive animal, both known and unknown to science. The morphology of the Loch Ness Monster on land can change rather dramatically depending on the eyewitness. But there's one theory and one description that led me to Arket Bay Woods all those years ago, and that theory are giant eels. If we briefly revisit certain reports and rumours, we'll discover that the giant eel theory is entirely possible. 1971, Robert Badger described a large, cylindrical object swimming in front of him with a 6-foot diameter. Other divers described giant eels the size of a man's body. Close to doors, 3 young women witnessed an enormous eel, about 28 to 30 foot long, on the shoreline. But as far as I'm aware, no giant eel has ever been caught in Loch Ness. Eels are often described as bottom dwellers, but they can in fact venture out of the water and move on land. This yet again takes us back to Arket Bay Woods and those ancient wetlands. Eels can spend most of their time out of sight, hiding around the rocks in aquatic environments, or burrowed within the soft golden sediment which can be found in Inchnacardick Bay and of course Arket Bay. I think it's fair to say that some eel species are actually quite adaptable. With their slender, elongated bodies and mucus-covered skin, eels can travel through certain environments with complete confidence. The next time you explore Arket Bay Woods, I want you to stop and take a moment and to really appreciate where you are, and if willing, allow your imagination to roam free and build the foundations of your own curiosity. It's easy to visualise a giant eel making its way to and from the loch. Whether you're flying solo or with a group of friends, during daylight hours or under the cover of darkness, just imagine hearing the sound of something large slithering around you, the sound of plant life being crushed by something heavy, or the sound of branches snapping as it draws closer and closer towards you, moving from one stream to the next, before retreating back into the dark, peaty waters of Loch Ness. Every time I visit Arket Bay Woods, I can't help but feel sentimental, because back then, as a child, I was in full monster hunting mode and determined to bag myself the great beastie of Loch Ness. On each winding path, or standing on the banks of the River Colty in Ennick, I can picture a younger version of myself exploring this lost world. And I remember feeling both scared and excited about the very thought of crossing paths with a giant, monstrous eel. Now we're in 2025, and as previously mentioned, the land reports remain highly controversial to this very day, and the Nessie community will continue to debate this theory. A lot has changed since my first visit to Arket Bay Woods, and there definitely is a shift in both my belief and understanding when it comes to these land sightings. But that being said, I will continue to explore these theories and approach all possibilities with an open mind, the way it should be